Well, welcome to See Here Love. I'm your host, Melinda, and we're glad you're with us today. Okay, raise your hands, ladies, if you've ever compared yourself to someone else, been jealous of someone's successes quietly.
Let's just go right now.
Or like, not quietly, but out there.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Or we felt the need to be competitive passively or quite obviously. Raise your hand and be honest.
My hand was up already.
Okay. Maybe I'll do this hand too. Oh, we got two hands. Well, yeah, that's what we're talking all about today, thanks to author, speaker, and incredibly fun human being, Lisa Bevere. How to stop seeing others as rivals, which limits our purpose and connections with others, and see how God's love breaks these limits and promises true identity and intimacy. Let's start the show with our thoughts on that. Let's talk about comparison. Why do you think that we compare ourselves with other women? And what has that done to us, like our souls, when we've done that?
Well, I'm jumping in because this one is just burning in my chest. I feel like comparison is the enemy of contentment. And so when you are constantly comparing, you are never ever going to feel this place of satisfaction of where you've gone, what you've accomplished. Your own personal successes seem always less than. And so there's never this place of, chin up. You're always in this, it's poisonous and toxic,
Yeah, it's true. They say same lines, like comparison is what do they say, the thief of joy.
Joy, yeah.
And it's true, like how can you marvel in what God has done in your life when your eyes are not even on what God has done in your life? Your eyes are on somebody else's life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's tough, it is. And I think it's also hard because we're comparing as we're looking and scrolling through Instagram, social media, magazines, and images on TV or video streaming or wherever we're watching.
Which is not real life. Can we just say that?
That's true. It isn't real life. You're right.
Social media's made it easier for us to compare all the time. Because before we couldn't see what everybody was doing all the time, and now we can, right?
Yeah, actually that's true. You'd see it in like the newspapers or magazines later on, but it wasn't in real time.
That's right.
I think the reason why women might be more influenced by comparison and the external circumstances and the people around us is because we tend to be more attuned and more sensitive to the things around us. In many ways, that comes off as consideration. Oh, how is Cheryl feeling? How is Brooke feeling today? Is Mel doing okay? Whereas men sometimes tend to be, okay, I'm fine. They're very they've got a tunnel vision sometimes. They're task-oriented most of the times. Many men are. But I think women have this idea of like trying to assess everything. And when that rears its ugly head, it just suffocates you.
Yeah.
And I think that's where some of that jealousy and that competition and why is she getting this and we one-up womanship, you know, that kind of comes into play.
And you know what it does rob us of joy because, there are people that look at us and say, I want their life. And yet we're always looking at like what we don't have versus what we actually have and sort of revel in it and are thankful for it. And, and I'm guilty. Like people are like, oh, well, you're the Christian speaker and, you have a show, and yet I, every day, have struggled with that where I'm looking at people and going, oh, I wish.
Well, people don't see the behind-the-scenes work and all the years upon years of the story that's had been being written before to get you to where you are today.
I think there's also a tendency in culture to encourage it. Like with all the media, the magazines and women and the beauty and everything, there is this sense of instigating. I don't think it's out there in the sense that, you have to compete with the beauty standards, but it's so subtle and it just gets into every mindset.
I have a quick remedy for all of this. If you don't want my struggle to get where I am, then don't envy my life. Because if you want to envy my life, then I'll give you all the struggle, but if you don't want it, then...
That's good.
Yeah.
Which brings us to competition. So we've got comparison where we're looking at other women, men situations and going, I wish I was like that or I want that. But then there is this competition where, and it's funny because you're kind of like, even preparing for this show, you're kind of like, do I really actually share honestly that I have this competitive spirit where like, even though you are saying, I want you to just outshine and be fantastic girlfriend of mine, there still is this strange little competitive spirit where you're like,
It is.
but I do want to be a little better than you. As much as I say it, like, do you feel the same way, or am I just on my own on this?
No,
because that's pretty honest.
You are 100%. You are 100% in the vein, and the truth is, even with those that we love, we have to push that down. It will creep up where you're like, oh, you know, they get a awesome ministry opportunity or a real big blessing, a door opens, and you're really happy, but there's that thing that wants to come up that you have to push down because it's just not good.
I actually look at like people that are doing things like bigger and better than me, and it spurs me on. I'm like, oh, like that can be done.
Yeah.
And how did she get there? And like, what kind of effort did it take her? And for me, it like spurs me on.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
And I guess I want to say too that because I don't want people to go, oh my goodness, Melinda's all competitive.
No,
But
and I'm not either.
I'm
but
trying
I'm
to
saying
balance
it can come
out.
up.
Yeah.
Like from my experience with competition, it was interesting. I remember very distinctly my moment in seminary, and most of actually, I think like, except for a couple girls, they were all men in my class because we were doing the MDiv, and usually it tends to be men, especially from my cohort. And I saw my professors on stage; they're both men, and I just understood I can never be that because I'm not a man. And so my competition was very different. I've always respected women who were very successful. I love it, but it was a different kind of competition, but it is there. It is in every single person.
Absolutely.
I feel with women too, I mean, there's a difference for me in sort of competition or comparison with men, but it's a whole different thing with women. Like I find there's a whole bunch of other emotional, relational issues that are there.
It brings other darker things in.
Yeah.
And so I have, my solution to that has been, take all of that competitive energy that Cheryl has and be competitive with yourself.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Versus trying to compete with
And
somebody
so I
else.
push myself, and as I hit a goal, I
Yeah.
move to the next thing, and it's so much healthier.
Yeah, and I like the idea of like stay in your lane, do what God has called you to do, and don't try to do what she's doing or trying to do it all when God has called you like to this, and do it really well.
Yeah.
You know, I want to see women do things really well versus they're trying to do everything and then they don't do anything well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like do that well.
I just have a quick question with Cheryl, because you mentioned that, you know, when somebody's envious of you, like, well, you got to take my struggle. Don't you think there's, I don't know if it happens, but sometimes we don't want to share the struggle because we're like, oh yeah, we're all mate. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is, that fuels a competition because you don't want to show the struggle. I believe that you do. No, but there are people out there who are like, yeah, I'm pristine, I got to where I am, and sometimes they don't let other people know that story and how hard it was to get there. And then you got this image of, man, and that's why
the truth is this illusion of perfection.
Yeah.
Nobody buys it anymore.
Yeah. People are
and
wizened.
it's almost more admirable to say this was really hard.
Yeah.
This road to get here was a lot of struggle and ups and downs.
Well, we do live in like a picture perfect world, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you see the prettiness and the beauty, but yeah, you don't see the mess. So, yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, I think it's encouraging. I think I wanted to be honest because a lot of viewers and listeners are like, are you guys just really this perfect while you're sitting on the set? No. Like, we struggle with comparison. We struggle with competition. Every day I have to wake up and say, Jesus, well, we always like to say, Jesus, take the wheel. But it's like, Jesus, help me, you know, in sort of in my motivation, be true to love for all people. Because if not, even within Christian circles and not, you can have that spirit. And we don't need that.
Right.
We don't need that anymore within our church or in our communities of that kind of spirit of competition and comparison. Yeah, it's good. Well, let's go now to Lisa Bevere, who I interviewed in Edmonton, where she shares how to stop looking at others as rivals and start living out our purpose completely loved by God. Let's go to Lisa now. Lisa Bevere, so great to have you on See, Hear, Love.
Thank you. I'm so excited about it.
Amazing. So here's lots of questions, but one that I've been asked by a lot of our viewers and listeners about. So you have a strong passion to see women find their purpose and know that they are loved by God, but women are having a hard time believing it and receiving that truth. Give us some insight on how to really believe it and know how to understand purpose and where do we go?
Well, that's a lot.
It is a lot. I noticed I loaded that question.
No, it's great, and I love it because I do hear that. So here's the thing I've discovered. You don't find out your purpose in the company of people usually. You find it in the presence of God. I find out who I am in his presence. I find out who I've been around people. So or I find out who I'm not around people. Like, I want to be her, or I want to be that. So I have a passion to see young people find their purpose. I've had the privilege of standing in front of, I want to say 100,000 millennials over the last couple of years. It's been a blur. I birthed 4 millennials. I think millennials are the most amazing people on the face of the earth. They're also some of the most confused. They actually know that they've been woven for this hour, that there's something significant on their life, but they have no idea what it is. And so I'll just tell them, hey, the reason you don't know what you're called to do is because you're called to do something new. You're called to do something that has never been done before. And I have to feel like that's the truth, because never has there been such an onslaught of distraction where everybody is so busy screen timing, looking what everybody else is doing, looking what they're not included in. When God is saying, I need you to lift your eyes. I need you to let me speak over you. I want to tell you this new thing that I'm doing. And so when I wrote Without Rival, it was all an identity and purpose, because they're trying to find out what they're called to do before they know who they are.
See, and that's key,
And
right? Because so it's the wrong question.
Well,
Ask
I
first.
find, exactly. I find out what I'm called to do when I have a revelation of who I am.
Right. And that must tie in then to
whose I
believing
am.
whose I am, and receiving and believing that I'm loved by God.
Absolutely.
Because there seems to be then a disconnect with that, right? If you don't
Absolutely.
feel that you're loved by God and you haven't received that love, then how do you know who you are?
Right.
So then that's key. How do you then get to a place of going, okay, I'm loved by God, the creator of the universe loves me?
Yeah. Well, I think it's even more personal than that.
Okay.
I think it's your father. And, a lot of us have mother wounds or father wounds, and, that's just going to happen because we were raised by humans. But there's something about when you get in the presence of God, who is your father, and he says, I love you. I remember for me, he said to me, it's not what you do. I wouldn't love you more if you were in the ministry. And a lot of people, and again, I'm not trying to make fun of their prayers, but a lot of people will say, God used me. And I felt like he told me, I don't use people. He said, I heal them. I love them. I transform them. I deliver them, but I don't use them. Maybe your ex-boyfriend used you. Maybe a friend used you, but I do it with you. And so I think we've had the wrong concept in ministry that God's going to use us, when God is like, I want to do it with you. This is not about me using you or giving you some platform. This is about me doing this with you, because the greatest platform you're going to ever have is your life.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Not alone, but with God.
With.
I love that. The other thing that I love that you've really identified is is that, especially as a woman, we deal with a lot about competition, jealousy, and comparison. And you're speaking to the person, because I've had it where women have been jealous of me and competed with me.
I've been jealous of you. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, in that case, if we're going to be honest about it, and this is the kind of place, I've been jealous of you too. But what is that? Because I would say every conversation I've had with my girlfriends, there is that. We are comparing. And the sad part is sometimes we're like, we don't want to see our girlfriends succeed. And when they do, we're like, but we're not really with them. You know what I mean?
Well, I think there's a scarcity mindset that somehow if you're blessed, it got taken out of my account. And that is not how God operates. If you're blessed, I should actually really celebrate that, because what God does in you is actually part of what he wants to do in me. But I get it. I have a ridiculous story opening up in the beginning of Without Rival of me not making a list and me freaking out, crying, telling my husband, maybe you could add me to the list, and saying, I can't believe I didn't make the top 100 female ministers in the United States. I'm never going to make it. I think I'm 59 this year, but I think at the time I was like 54. And I mean, it was a complete meltdown. And John was like, what is going on? You're measuring yourself by other people. And I was like, I know I'm wrong, but that doesn't make this feel right. And so I had a complete flip out. And I had to actually come to terms with that. I was looking for people to give me the affirmation that only God should do that. You should never give anybody that much power over your life, that if you don't make some list or get invited to something that your whole self-image and purpose and identity has just been shattered. And so for me, it was like a 20-minute meltdown that and could have been menopause, but I just said, you know what, I'm gonna write this down. And it was crazy because so many people connected with that. They said, I felt the same way. I had no idea that this would be a wrestling. And so I think that, we do have a culture where there is a lot of opportunity for comparison and competition. Yeah. So we have to be intentional. And then the other thing is, I'm in charge of who I let in my life.
That's good.
If somebody else is making me feel less than, that's because I gave them permission to. And if somebody else is inciting me, that's because I chose to let them into my world. I'm the guardian. I'm the doorkeeper.
Good.
If people are, and maybe you're just not mature enough to handle it, that's okay. I mean, we can be in different seasons, but you can edit your life. Yeah. You don't have to let everybody have voice and the ability to wound you. You just need to actually follow people that are going to inspire you to follow Jesus.
That is so encouraging because trying to manage is so exhausting.
Yeah.
Everybody else and how they see you. And I think that's really empowering for me, Lisa, to say, you know what, I need to go where God's leading, be okay with that. And if people are going to hate, so be it. I know that I'm with God and I've got the people that I need around me that are going to love and protect me. Final question, and this is something that's come up again and again with my girlfriends, is as we look at competition and comparison, we struggle with love and believing that we're loved and purpose. One of the things that I always get from girlfriends is, in all of this, in all the confusion, how do we compete with all the voices and having Jesus prioritize and husband and family and friends and then feel like a total failure? Like, how do you do it?
Well, I'd go back again. I would edit. I have the privilege of traveling and speaking, and that's beautiful, but I'm full on, full off. When I'm home, I don't get involved in a lot of other stuff because I only have a certain amount of capacity. So I'm gonna focus on my marriage, focus on my children, focus on my team, and focus on what God's given me to do. And hopefully, that means that I'll have friendships added, but yeah, there's probably a lot of things that a lot of people do that I don't get to do. But then there's a lot of things that I do that other people don't get to do. And I think the comparison thing is something to be aware of. One of the things is comparison means that you're either going to look at other people and think they're better than you, which means you'll be isolated because of insecurity, or you'll look at other people and think you're better than them, which means you're going to fall because of pride. So comparison is always going to be a losing game. So I have just decided I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. It makes me crazy. I'm just going to celebrate, and I'm going to surround myself with people that do the same. And I think more and more people are thinking along those lines.
Good. Lisa, for our viewer listener, one last encouragement for them as they journey through this life.
We need you. You have something on you that is so significant and so unique. I cannot have you copy other people because I know it would be easier, but I need you to do the hard thing and lean into everything God has for you because it's going to be magnificent.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yep. Lisa Bevere.
Wow.
That is some really good stuff there. She's amazing.
She's amazing.
I gotta say this, the funniest part was that Bob Goff, who a lot of people know, the author of Love Does and Everybody Always, was lying on the floor beside Lisa during my interview.
No.
Egging her on. And she's talking and you see the interview, but if you didn't know, Bob was like doing a little commentary around Lisa during that time. So that's why she was like chill and laughing.
Yeah.
And there was Bob Goff, and I think he started throwing stuff at her. So it's really,
I
had to say that because it's hilarious. And we got a picture of it. So we'll have to put that up on
Talk about
social.
no rivals,
I know,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, as Lisa talked about focusing on our purpose rather than focusing on competition, and this whole thing about no rivals. What are your thoughts on that? Because that's some big stuff that us as women struggle and face every day.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I mean, she's full of wisdom. I loved when she said that we need to lift our eyes to Jesus and let him speak into our lives.
Yeah.
Instead of, having our eyes on everyone and everything else and letting that dictate how we feel and lead. No, let's turn our eyes to Jesus.
Because it always seems to we turn inward to us.
Yeah.
And it's about us, but not to Jesus. Yeah, that's good.
Loved it.
Yeah, I love that part.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because we were talking about that woman-on-woman jealousy, and she mentioned what I was also thinking, that there's a sense that we don't know God. If Melinda's blessed, then I can't be blessed. Kind of thing, that scarcity mentality that she talked about, right? Which I think goes to show that you don't know who God is. You don't know his love. You don't know the abundance and how he loves you as if you were the only person in the world. But our concept of God is warped, and therefore we rival with each other.
Like God has a purpose and plan for your life, like he does for your life.
And it looks
He
pretty
does
different.
for your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
I'm totally reminded, I got goosebumps, of the book of Deborah. And just very quickly, the victory happened, which Deborah saw, that it would come at the hands of a woman. But it came through a woman named Jael. And so Deborah launches this sort of battle against the enemy of the day. Jael finishes it, in a tent.
Yeah.
And the reality is, Jael understood miles away, hours away, that one woman's battle is every woman's battle. And so true breakthrough and victory cannot happen without unity, without sisterhood. There are some things that we can't go through to get, like we can't go through alone. We must go with our sisters. We need
love
that.
Yeah, I love how honest she was, because she shared that she wasn't in the top 100 women in the United States that are the amazing women, and she was like, "What?" And I was like looking at her, because I've been there. There are things where I've been on some of those lists, and others I haven't been. And there are moments I'm like, why not? I think I'm an amazing woman making a difference in the world. How come? And it's just really good that even someone like Lisa says, you know what? I had to kind of take a pause and say, that is not what it's about.
And her husband was the one that was encouraging her,
John was kind of like, whoa, girl, you need to take it easy. Which I'm glad I have like a Chris, because he would say the same thing. And lists are good, because but then if that's what you're constantly looking for, then your motivation.
It's just like, who are you doing it for?
It was a real heart check moment.
It is a heart check, and I think that's important for us as women.
And I think also women or sisterhood rivalry, you're doing the enemy's work for him. Like that should infuriate you. You're letting him play you like a fiddle, and you need to waken and wisen up to that, so that again, every woman who is the daughter of God, and for those who will be daughters of God, you need to fight for them, not for yourself.
That's right.
And when you discover that, we all win.
We all win.
So.
And I've seen it. I've seen it in Canada, I've seen it in the US, where when women say, okay, let's stop competition and comparison and actually help and strengthen one another, look at the things that have happened. Movements, change, unbelievable conferences, different denominations of churches coming together, different ethnic groups and cultural expressions. Like when we actually do that,
we are unstoppable.
We are unstoppable. It's a mighty move of God that says, get past all that stuff and let's do the work that I have you doing.
Hating against my sister, being mean against my sister is doing that to my own self. And we need to understand, it's not a cliche. Hating Brooke or hurting her in any way is actually injuring myself.
And I think we need to think about that we are all connected, interconnected, and when we hurt somebody, it hurts us and the bigger, body.
So good.
And I think that's the thing too. My last little thought. There's so much angst and anger and hatred against the church and people who say follow Jesus, because I think of this, because of comparison and control and power. Imagine if we said, okay, no more rivalry, but helping to spur one another on in the love of Jesus, motivated by him. Imagine that.
Imagine a world with no rivalry.
Exactly, no rivalry.
Come, Lord Jesus.
Thank you, Lisa Bevere. Thank you, guys. That's really awesome thoughts. Well, that's great. And now let's go to co-host Joanna as she shares about a verse that fits right into our theme on purpose and no rivalry.
When we're growing up, a lot of people ask us, what do you want to be when you grow up? And a lot of that is because we're trying to discover who we are, and we're trying to learn who this child is and what they dream of becoming. But as we look back at who we were as a kid and some of the things that we wanted to be, like for me, one of the things I wanted to be was a forensic scientist. And I don't know about you, but I'm so glad that some of the things I wanted to be as a kid did not actually work out. It says in Proverbs 19:21, many are the plans in a person's heart, but it's the Lord's purposes that prevail. It's the Lord's intention and work in the world that is going to happen. We can make plans and dreams, and a lot of the time we're making plans and dreams about something that we think we would like to do or we would hope we would like to do, but we don't even really know what's best. And that's the amazing comfort that we have actually knowing God. Lisa Bevere on this episode, just as Mel and her were having that conversation, amazing conversation with her about the idea of when we know God and when we spend time with God, we actually begin to know ourselves better and our purpose in the world becomes more and more clear. Have you been spending time with the Lord lately, or have you been busy making plans kind of on your own? Have you been like a kid who's dreaming up all these things you want to do and be in the future, but actually they're not really suited to you? I'm so glad to have the security and comfort of knowing that I can make plans and dreams and we should prepare for our own futures, but actually my future is in the hands of God. There's some things that have happened in my life that I didn't expect and never could have even thought to have prayed for or asked for. And that's the amazing thing about following a God who knows us and loves us and created us. That we make our plans, but we also invite God into knowing us and showing us the way to go. I hope that as you make your plans for your future today, you would ask and invite God to be part of your plans and your life, that He knows best and you can trust in Him for that.
Well, thanks, Joanna, for your great Bible teaching, and to Lisa Bevere for always bringing it and bringing the truth to us. All right, so our thoughts on Proverbs 19:21. Lisa, do you want to read that again?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going.
Many are the plans in the mind of a man, but it is a purpose of the Lord that will stand.
Yeah. Man and woman.
Yeah.
Purposes of the Lord will stand. Okay, what are your thoughts about that? Because we're talking about purpose. Because she was like, to get away from all the competition, comparison, and rivalry, we got to get to our purpose that God has put before us, and that's what we focus on, not on this other stuff. Yeah. So how does that verse connect you with that truth?
The reason that our efforts many times fail is because our motives are wrong. Mm-hmm. And our motives are spurred on by competition and comparison. When we scratch it down to the root, it's we choose things and say yes to things, sometimes to be seen, not to be left out of a movement, just to be present in that. And we need to not look at what is the good thing to do, but the God thing to do. I want the God thing over what seems good.
I agree. And I think many people want to know, like, what is my purpose? How do I find it? And I love what Lisa said. It's like, it's in the presence of God that you find your purpose. And I think about this like time in my own life where like I went on this journey for like 7 years to figure out like what it was I wanted to do. And it wasn't until I got into the presence of God and like leaned into Him that He started to direct that path and that purpose for my life. So
good.
Yeah, I love that verse.
For me, it's very practical. Your plans will end when you die.
I love
you. That's it. Right? And so
Lisa,
when you graft yourself into that which is the plan of the Lord, what you do lasts for an eternity. Yeah. And so that's why, like, best laid plans, they just die with you. That's it. Right?
And I've seen it in my own life. Like, I have made many decisions where it's like, this is the best for me, or this is what I want to do, just on base human desire.
Yeah, absolutely.
Clearly did not work for me. But then when I actually, and people are like, but what does that mean? I said, because what God's plans are, they're good. They'll be good for you. They could be very hard, and there's a lot of sacrifice, and there could be some dry times. But I'm telling you, every time I've said, okay, God, I'm going to follow what you want, lead me to the right person, the job, it really has worked. When I've tried to manipulate and tried to make it happen for me, has not gone a good way. And so I think that verse really resonates with me to say God's purposes and plan.
God's like, stop trying to control the situation. Like, I've got you.
And I think all you ladies can probably hopefully agree with me on this, that when you are in the will of the purpose and the purpose of the Lord, there's a reservoir there of grace and endurance and perseverance. Because we were just talking about that, how it's been a long week for you, and then it's just like, well, you know what, you can still press on.
Yes, absolutely.
That's good.
Thank you for your thoughts. That's good. And let's commit to not being competitive or comparing with ourselves and with other women.
Are
we in?
We should do a pinky.
Oh, pinky thing. Are we?
Okay,
all right. Oh, pinky thing. Okay, reaching over. Thank you so much. Well, imagine living without rivals, comparison, and competition, and fully living out your purpose, embracing the complete love and intimacy of God. Your identity can only be found in Him. Stop the fronting and the striving. We know it's exhausting. It's time to find wholeness and rest in Him. And to help you on your new journey, always go to seehearlove.com. We've got lots of great resources for you. And always know that you are seen, and you are heard, and your authentic self, and you are loved deeply by God. Bye-bye. Deeks Insurance is a proud sponsor of the See Here Love Studio.